of 2018 and going forward for amenities for active retirees, which this community was built in the 1970s and 80s for active retirees. And it's wonderfully situated in Mesa, the most popular and _1 senior community in America, right here, Mesa, in the recent publications. So we have a valuable square mile, almost square mile, and we need to be caretakers for it. My wife found this Greek parable, and I think it struck me as interesting and appropriate. Society grows great when old men plant trees under whose shade they will never sit. As I've said many times, I've got 40-year experience in doing master planning. Long time, lots of projects, lots of different places, lots of different environments, lots of different economic situations. The worst place you can go to plan a master plan is this community or a retirement community, because much of the master plan always happens 10, 15, 20 years out. And that's what this is. This is a plan that will be completed in its initial form, if we stay on schedule, in June to coincide with Wendy Holtzman's report. So the master plan hasn't been updated very much because we're going to wait for all of that input, and that's why we need it from everybody. And there's so many different stratus of people here. We've got young retirees, we've got very old retirees, we've got people with significant income streams, we've got people that have limited income streams. It's an HOA. We came in here as an HOA, which means that we're a very socialistic country, which means that everybody pays the same. Everybody gets to reap the rewards of what we do, the investment. So that's where we are in the master plan. If you go to the next slide, huh? Welcome, and the next one. I'm gonna do some introductions. We have Keith Hilgendorf, who is president of the foundation. He's also representing the president of FOSA tonight, Jerry Favero. We have John Folk, who's on the homeowners board and is chairman of the finance committee. And in back directing traffic is Keith Kellen, president of the homeowners association. As we're all aware, the approval's been completed. We're going to merge. We're going to have 7 board members instead of 14. We're going to have a more efficient government. That's what 82% of you wanted. And that this work product that started out in the CA will be transferred to the SA in June, and that new board, which is going to be elected in February, I believe, will be responsible for whatever works with the master plan. Now, the master plan has brought up a bunch of things, some of which are not replacing buildings, they're more adding amenities. And because that's our highest priority, we've already started moving in many different ways with looking at bringing more amenities in, whether it be croquet or bocce ball or pickleball or tennis or redoing our horseshoes, redoing our shuffleboard complex, all these things. Those will be high priority items because they're very affordable, they're easier to do than building new buildings, and they'll take far less time and we'll get more immediate return on that. So that's our high priority, and our current community association board is moving on that already. I'm going to do a quick plan update, and then we're going to open it up to your questions and comments. If you go to the next slide. Hold your questions and comments and to the end of the presentation. Limit your questions to the topics of this presentation. I don't want to talk about speeders or speed bumps or birds or neighbors that are causing trouble or who should we use for garbage. I want to talk about much larger things. Turn your cell phones off or George will hunt you down. All right, go to the next one. Okay, this is a duplicate slide to what we did before. What's a master plan? It's a comprehensive document providing a plan of action and overall strategy for making major capital improvements. It's a well-prepared plan that is flexible, updatable, changeable based on future needs or desires. So, classic definition of master planning. Okay, the master plan will coordinate with the results of Wendy's survey. The master plan so far has been developed using the 2 surveys that took place, I think 4 and 2 years ago, or maybe 5 and 3 years ago. That's what we use to do a lot of the master planning to date. We will update the master plan to the same level of looking at things architecturally, looking at things from plan view, looking at things from rendered views, once we receive information and direction based on what we hear from you in the survey, or what we hear from you that gets directly to the master plan committee or the long range planning committee. The master plan will provide future direction as how do we replace or upgrade existing buildings and community entrances. So we're talking about everything that's in our common space, our common areas, not your condominium areas, not your homeowner areas, just what our common space is. The master plan will provide future direction as to what new amenities we need to add and where, and also existing amenities that need to be better located, like the shuffleboard court, which is deteriorating. We do need to replace it. So there's a lot of things on the plate, but I think it's all exciting stuff. And obviously, if you're in the later stages of retirement, some of these active things don't appeal to you. But those people who haven't retired yet, who will be coming here in 5 years, that's what they'll be looking for. That's what will support your house value. That's what will support the value of this very significant investment we have in this community, is what our amenities are, what our asset structure is, and how we differentiate ourselves from other market conditions. All right, this is one of the contentious things, and we're staying with it. It could take many forms. The Master Planning Committee strongly recommends that the Fountain of the Sun community position itself to procure the privately held FOS Country Club and its assets to provide long-term security to this irreplaceable feature of our community. Every FOS homeowner then would become part owner of this valuable amenity. It is estimated that at minimum 10% of our home or condo real estate value is derived from having this entity as part of our gated community. I'm not talking about something that's going to happen tomorrow, maybe not to happen for years, but it will be in the master plan. It'll be a plan that the boards can look at and constantly survey. And obviously the country club, who's been in communication with us, they have their interests, the community has an interest. As homeowners, condo owners, we all have an interest. Bottom line is the master plan will say that we need this jewel in our community to remain in its current situation for as long as this community is an active retirement community in Mesa. The second thing is, and we'll go over this a little bit, why we are looking at it. By quirk of nature, the Sun Villa Apartments just happen to land right in the center of our community. It's unique housing, but it's in very valuable land. And a lot of our potential expansion space could be there. As far as any new buildings, any new amenities that we develop, any new landscaping, any pool expansions, all of that may be bettered by controlling that land going into the future. Again, this is not tomorrow or the next day or the next year, but it needs to be looked at continually into the future. And I'll show you a little bit of why we think it's so important. This is where we started out with a master plan of what are potentials that we could do to add square footage and building space. We are, for a mile square community, we're land poor. The common areas are very small. These spaces that these 2-3 buildings here are sitting on are barely adequate with parking, and they're surely not adequate for expansion. So first look that we did is we took advantage of vertical space and went with a three-story building with a rooftop and a basement, which we call the Lakeside Building, which is located on the lake. And we would take out this building, the admin building, and the annex building. And then we said, okay, if we do own the country club, we could put a clubhouse, activity center, multi-purpose building on that site because there's a lot of land. We moved away from that option for a number of reasons. One of the reasons was it's a big building and it takes a lot of valuable golf course space. It takes pitching greens, part of the driving range, and it interferes with what we have in our classic golf arrangement. So we moved away from that and we went to another option, which is to build the activity center, and that's right where Sun Villa is. With the adequate parking to support that building. It would be a building about twice as big as this building, and we would still have the 3-story building on the lakeside. That would expand our square footage and bring our buildings up to modern code, modern ADA, sprinkled, and be where we move into the future. Just one option. Are we going to end up there? I don't know. What we've explored more recently is to not do the 3-story building and to do a very large 2-story building at the Sun Villa site, which would include activity center, offices, craft rooms, everything, library, all in one building. And we could then do that by making it much more ground level. We still have some second floor areas, but they would be administrative and small group areas. Large groups would all be ground level if we did that. And there's some appeal there. The problem with that solution is that forces you into a Sun Villa acquisition, and there's a lot of people that have speculated what that would cost, and that's why it's planning and not doing, because it's going to take a lot of planning. We can go to the next one. Oh, let's go back real quick. we did, as we did before, have a multi-pool complex. We've got a lap pool there, an adult pool, and then a general pool. So when you have your families here, they'd have a pool to go to, and the adults that don't want to associate with family activity would have their pool. We have a lot of people that are interested in a lap pool. So we'd have a 4-lane lap pool, an adult pool, and try to reuse the existing pool that we have. And then all of this space would be landscaped and very nice, and it would be our downtown, our town center. Okay. There we are, that's who we are. You can see the green space primarily is golf course, and we have struggled, and we still cannot come up with a better place than the maxi parks to put activities in, to take them out of their current status and redo them and make them very appealing and productive to support our adult community. So we're still on that. That's moving quickly from master planning to long-range planning, which means it's on a faster track than new buildings, faster track than the golf course, faster track than the Sun Villa. The rest of it is more visionary and dreams. So all of that, although there's some expense involved with it, we could talk a little bit about how we'd afford it during the question and answer period, but I don't personally find this opportunity to do the whole master plan and anything that's outside the limits of Carroll and our income stream, which is primarily Social Security and a small pension. So I don't think you should be scared of us spending your money or the master plan spending your money. It is a chance to think about things and going into the future. And I've always been a planner, so I think it's good to have a plan because you can change the plan, but you can't start planning when your roof fails or when you have problems with your existing real estate that you can't fix very quickly. And renovation is very expensive. Whether we renovate or build new, they always turn out to be pretty close. We will include, as we said before, the 80th Street will be a part of the master plan, how we're going to do the entrance, how that's going to work on our traffic pattern, and then we've got the same situation. That's the RV storage park, where 80th deadheads, that area. Probably of all the comments I've got from my previous master plan presentation, most people are interested in having that south exit and entrance. I know the fire department, the ambulance service is really interested in getting it because they can get to the south end of this square mile so much faster by coming off Southern. Our fire and ambulance service comes right down Southern, right from around Powell. Also, the people on the south side of town, it would be good, easy exit, entrance. We haven't figured out exactly how that would be monitored, whether it be gated or whether it would be manned, but all of that will happen. Future planning, future detail work. We're just looking at it from way up in the clouds down. Okay, now it's your chance to ask your questions, walk to a microphone.